Thanks, Jeremy, for having me here in Creative Mornings. And also, thanks everybody for coming out to listen to me, ramble on about myself very vainly. Normally I'd be in the shop right now, so I'd be like covered in like grease and dirt, sawdust and whatnot. So this is kind of new. It's nice that we have these events for the city. We need it and draw creative people here. So it's good. And then, of course, I'd like to thank my friends and family, and especially my girlfriend, who's very patient, and I'm never home, and gives me the confidence to go out and do these things. And as you can tell, I'm super nervous. So we'll move on from the thank yous. All right. So I haven't done any public speaking since high school, and that's kind of in front of your friends, so that doesn't really count. So this is the first time in a dozen years. So you have to bear with me. I'm a local guy. I grew up over in White Oak on the west side, for those of you who know that. Played baseball, all that kind of good stuff. Went to St. X and then UC, where I studied Latin, which turned out to not be useful. And so when I got done with that, I applied to law school, and because I was confused, like so many other people, and it didn't take very long to get in there and see the crowd, and obviously I did not fit in, and so that we moved on from there. And luckily my parents have a manufacturing business where we make automotive parts, very kind of boring stuff, but I had a job. I went there and I started running the factory, and just kind of setting up machines and things of that nature. And then at that time, my friends were all kind of in their senior year, and they were graduating from DAP, and they had a furniture project, and me still being confused, I saw what they were doing, and I liked it, so I went out and bought a table saw and just started tinkering at night, and then things kind of escalated, and 6.5 years later, we started a business. So I guess about 1.5 years ago, I had a few friends who wanted to start a business, 2 industrial designers and 1 graphic designer. And so they called me because they had no manufacturing capabilities, and they were in New York and one was in Vegas. And so it didn't take very long for personality conflicts and life to happen. And so pretty much 2 dropped out immediately, and it was just the graphic designer and me. Which, was good, kind of 2 different disciplines, to work together. So we got the ball rolling, and we ended up finalizing with 5 different products, that little planter being one of them, and offering it in 3 different woods, kind of to make it seem as though we had more things than we actually did, which is good, because it was just me building, and him kind of doing press stuff. And so we ended up with, we wanted to have kind of a broad range of items because we didn't really know what was going to sell. It was going to be little things or big things. So we have a bed, which is not up there. It's a mid-century platform bed ranging down to these little planters. And so we ended up launching at America's Mart in Atlanta, which is an enormous home and gift show. It has everything from home accessories to clothing to furniture. And so it's about 7 million square feet of show space, and it's 3 full-size buildings in downtown Atlanta. So luckily we got selected to be in a high design section, and so we didn't get passed over quite as readily as if we were just on floor 10 in the middle of nowhere. So that was very nice to get started off. And then, after the first day, this is kind of exciting, that we got an email from Design Within Reach, who liked one of our products, specifically this little iPad dock that we make. It's like a mid-century, basically just like a speaker and a clock, nothing too fancy. And so they liked it, and so then that started, the ball rolling with them. And however, the show ended up not turning out as well as we would have liked. The South just wasn't our audience, and so that turned out to be kind of not a waste of money, but we were in the hole when we left. We didn't sell enough to make back our costs and all that. And my partner and I were arguing, and so at that point he decided to just bow out, cut his losses, and which is good because he had a career in New York to worry about, and we just had to spend too much time on it for him to be able to actually be productive. And so we're still buddies, and that's great. So it kind of worked out. And for something like this, you actually have to be around your partner, or anybody who's ever done this before, anything like it, every day. So luckily, my girlfriend Fernanda stepped in, and she does everything from PR to booking hotels and logistics stuff for shows, and which I'm in the shop all the time building, so I have no time to be doing anything like that. But there were some bright spots in the first year. It was despite just the difficulty of getting something rolling. We were up for an Icon Honors Award, which is just like an industry award. But we'd only been in business for 6 months, and everybody there, like Hallmark, ended up winning something. So these are like big established companies, and that was very nice. So that was a highlight. Let's see. Oh yeah. So probably the toughest lesson that we had to learn was that it's very easy to get your hopes up about big deals when they come through and all these things, but until someone signs on the line, it really doesn't mean anything. So we had a lot of people sign and then back out. So the next year we added some new products, this table being one of them. And so we tried to make them more slim and colorful and a bit more elegant than kind of like the strong wood feel, that we had gone for. And we launched in Vegas, which was a much better venue for us than Atlanta. And so after Vegas, we ended up having some very consistent business with interior designers and architects and small retailers and things like that. So it's good, with some money coming in. Every day is still pretty stressful trying to get products out. It's just me building, basically. But there's always something interesting happening. So we just found out that we were in Interior Design magazine this month in a couple of different spots, which is very nice. And they don't tell you when they do a lot of these things, so we actually had a customer call and place orders, and when we asked where they heard from us, it was like Interior Design magazine. I was like, oh, all right, that's awesome. So we went out and got it and put it up on the website and that kind of stuff. So we just got back from ICFF, which I don't know if any of you know what that is, but it's the International Contemporary Furniture Fair in New York, and it's probably the second most prestigious show in the world. So it's a much smaller show than we would usually do, but the work there is amazing and just is very intimidating, to be there amongst like the big guys. And we have like our little booth space and just kind of standing there, like that. So, but that went well. It's kind of hard to gauge because it's all very long-term business, things that happen. So, but it's definitely snowballing, and we've been in a lot of blogs, and architecture firms are calling, and we have hotels that we're quoting on, and things of that nature, which, for just one guy to like quote on like 300 tables is kind of ridiculous, but it's fun. So, just some examples of people that we're talking to are like Starbucks and Anthropology and CB2, Dwell, Restoration Hardware, likes the dock that you see. But probably the most flattering event that actually happened while we were there was a student came up and was, kind of like analyzing this table. She was like underneath it and like all over, and I asked her what she was doing, and she's like, well, she saw it on Pinterest, and she's a student, and she was modeling the legs of her furniture project after it. I was like, oh, that's awesome. So flattering. So that was nice. So I thought you'd be interested in kind of knowing how, the design for this came about, kind of outside of just the artistic nature of it, I guess. So first off, I chose a side table because our manufacturing area is very small, and I don't have the ability to do a lot of large items. So then, first and foremost, of course, you have to consider your customer. Who's it going to? Which are retailers and online retailers and things like that. So I chose this because it doesn't take up too much floor space, and it's relatively inexpensive in the world of furniture. So it's gonna wholesale for $230, whereas a sofa could be a couple $1,000s, and it's gonna take them a long time to move that, so they're much more likely to actually just invest, like a small store, in $230, something that's probably gonna move a lot quicker. And then also, even though we're not importing it, so it doesn't have to be flat pack. I did want it to be small, so it could be shipped through FedEx, which is really good for online retailers. They like that kind of stuff, just simple for organizational purposes. And it only costs about $20 to ship this to the West Coast, whereas to ship a whole sofa, it'll be like $500. So then also, our previous products are a little bit, even though they're very simple, there's traditional woodworking involved in joint work, and still takes a little bit, of skill to actually produce this item. So I wanted to simplify it and kind of rely more on CNC work, that kind of thing, so a laborer could just, pop it in, hit the button, and go, and then all the rest of the work is pretty well non-skilled. So as far as the design goes, I wanted it to be modern and kind of edgy, but not too edgy. I don't want to alienate half of the audience, we'll say, because you're still kind of appealing to, well, honestly, a lot of middle-aged women, out there. And so, not everybody is cool and trendy and wants the latest, greatest thing. So, it has to be just enough to pull them out of their comfort zone a little bit. And then also we wanted to slim it down and make it a little more sexy, add some colors to it and some thin wood stuff. So, and the table, I wanted it to be curved to kind of offset the sharp angular legs. And then I put a nice little curve on it, just to thin out the tabletop, make it as thin as possible, not reducing it, in terms of strength or anything like that. And then finally, for a nice little detail, I added in this little inlay, which I don't know if you can see, but it's very simple, just straight cuts. But people seem to really like it because of the perfection where the lines actually intersect, and it's you get very nice little detail there, and people want to come up and touch it, and that's kind of the most important thing, obviously, is getting them to touch it, and so just interact with your product. So, and then also the bright color, because our booth space is very small in such a large show. People will walk by looking at another booth and not even realize that they missed you. So we wanted something to kind of grab their attention and pull them in, so they'll walk by and then stop and then come back. Basically, is kind of what ends up happening. So I guess I haven't talked about minimal at all. So, so how does minimal apply to us? Well, really, it kind of goes through everything that we do and how we think. So the most obvious is that the products themselves are very simple. People say that they have clean lines and that kind of thing, and that's true. But it also kind of pertains to how we run the business. In general, everything is done on a shoestring, and oh, there you go. That's our little booth in Vegas. But it kind of, let's see, where was I? Right. So everything is done on like a shoestring budget. We go to shows and we build all our own sets, and we try and like cheap out the shipping like as much as possible. And like ICFF, we drove all our stuff up there and unloaded it and didn't use union labor, and we don't advertise in magazines, right? We go to shows, which are expensive, but they pay off more. You get to interact with your customer, that kind of thing. And really, it's less about minimal than it is kind of about maximizing your resources and maximizing kind of the usefulness of your product. So like the little planners we make, they didn't need to be anything more than what they were. The wood grain was good. The simple wood box, it's very nice, has some little feet on it, it's good detail. Yeah. And even like when we go to shows, so we don't necessarily need to be at every show, so we're partnering up with other companies. So like right now, our stuff is being shown at the Dwell on Design show in LA with one of our retailers, right? We send them catalogs, and it costs us nothing to have people there selling our stuff, which is great. And we're going to High Point here in the fall, and we're there with a booth, but then we also have a couple other companies that we've teamed up with, like an upholstery company, to put our side tables in. And so then they market for us and send people our way. So, yeah, I guess that's pretty much what I've got. So I will open it up to Q&A. Anybody has it?
You start off with pencil and paper design, or just is there a piece of wood design that you want to do?
Yeah, mostly I just kind of, like I have a list of like 40 things that I would love to build, but I can't draw, so everything I do is in CAD. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. And then it never turns out the way that you think it's going to turn out. So, it's like a dozen prototypes before you end up with something that you like.
You mentioned the middle-aged woman of
Yes.
the deal. Probably not when you're in your workshop, the thing that you're like, I'm building this for my mom. What are some success, or like where you're hitting, where you planned it maybe, or you're like, this is going to look great in this cabin or whatever. You're like, no, this person is completely taking it. What are some surprises there where you're appealing to a place maybe you didn't think that you would appeal to?
Well, so we'll say like with the inlay that I put on top of this table, I have to offer it without an inlay also, because even though that doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, we had a retailer and they're like, I like it and you like it and designers like it, but our customers probably won't like it. So we make one without an inlay and charge the same price, which is great. So, yeah, but yeah.
Actually, I have two questions. How do you prevent stuff like this, woodworking accidents?
Holy crap, wow.
Yeah, it was on a joint player actually. But my other question is, where do you find inspiration for the way all of your design elements come together? The shapes and the feelings that you bring out in the work.
Well, okay, so for the first question, I don't know how I haven't lost a finger yet, because I removed all the safety equipment from my machinery just to make it, because I do I'm very, if OSHA came by, they would probably shut me down, yeah. And then at like 12 hours, so at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, working on a table saw, right, it can get a little hairy. So I don't have an answer for that one, luck. But then, it kind of just works itself out when you start with the basic premise, of what I want the table to look like. So I wanted this table to be round, and I wanted it to have a curved edge. And so the legs, it's like I want them to be made out of 1/4-inch rod. Well, how am I going to do that, right? So a hairpin design is like the most logical method to make that happen. And so because of the curve of the bottom of the tabletop, I couldn't just mount the legs on the curve. That would not have looked right. So I just kind of scooted them together, essentially, right? And then it turned out to make like a nice little intersection that people like. It was kind of lucky. And then the way that there's a base plate underneath where all of these are like welded into, right there. And so with that thickness, and then the thickness of the thread inserts that actually go into the tabletop to mount it, kind of gave me the overall width that the table had to be, you know, and just logically. So I don't know if that answers your question. I wish that there was more to it, but just, yeah.
Your style looks very mid-century, modern inspired.
Yeah.
Are there some mid-century modern artists that you look to for inspiration or that goals love?
Oh, you know, I have to fill out these like online questionnaires all the time for like blogs and sites and whatnot, and you know, they all ask me that, and I have no idea really. I mean, there's so many good people out there. I could list off the big ones, right, that people know, but you know, I mean, the room is full of good designers here, right? So, and same with furniture and everything else. So, I can't really nail it down to one person.
Did you bring any cards? Because a friend of mine is a interior designer in Greenwich, and she's middle-aged woman who loves this stuff.
I love middle-aged women. I don't have any cards. Not like that. That came out wrong. Yeah. So, all right. Well, no, I don't have any cards. I actually gave them all away at the last show. But, you know, I can take your email down and send you something. That'd be great. Yeah. Yes.
Bruce, there's a company that makes a salt where when your flesh is it, the play stops.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
It's very
But
cool.
I just thought I would
Yeah.
throw it out.
Yeah.
At what point do you need to hire more people to help you? Like, did you get the hotel contract? Or?
Yeah, you know, so I'm debating as to whether or not to invest here in like new machinery, and then you have to chase laborers around. And I mean, I run a factory already, so I know kind of the ills of that. And so, or to just go overseas, place your order, it all comes in, you don't need to think about it. And that's difficult because you walk this line like, what does your customer want? How important is made in America to them? And with the big guys, they don't really care, right? But interior designers, they care, you know, and architects, they care. And, you know, customization is kind of a big thing. So being able to do that kind of separates you from saying, I can do that, but it'll come to you in like 6 months. So I don't know, we're walking a fine line with that as we speak. Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm already working like 60 hours and for like the past 2 years. So I'm like drained. I'm amazed. I'm standing. So, but you know, you don't want to give it up. You know, you want like ultimate control over everything. So, let's see.
Where do you get your wood?
Oh, okay. So I buy from a place called Wilhelm Lumber out in Indiana, and you're not going to find them on Google or anything. They're just like some good old boys, you know. And it's really, it's cool. They have a large selection. They don't advertise because, and it's so stupid, but they don't want any more business because they're already maxed out. And it's like, okay, that makes sense. But I had a guy at like a woodworking store tell me that I was buying too much wood and this is where I should go. And then I never went back there. So that probably wasn't a good business decision. And, and so, yeah, but now there's a place in town that my quantities are getting much larger. Actually down on 8th Street that I'm gonna start probably buying from because they deliver and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
You have a showroom?
I personally do not have a showroom. No, we don't really sell like direct to people. So, and we don't do anything here in town locally. So I have no one to show it to. So, yeah.
What has been your experience coming from kind of school Latin background to the creative industry? Like, how has that transition been?
Oh, right. Well, so a lot of my friends having gone to X, right? They're all like doctors and attorneys and accountants, very like straight-laced, right? Well, when I started working at my parents' factory, then everyone is probably like, like, what is this guy doing, right? You know, and so it just kind of gradually transition there. When they started to, they were probably very like troubled, honestly, to start off with, because I wasn't doing anything, I was just making it, and then like I made it, done, I'm gonna give it away now. Like, I don't need another coffee table. And so, but really once they started to see progress, and once I did too, then it just kind of like started to flow, and the more you think about things, the better you get, and then people are very accepting. They like it, One day the money will come in to justify it, so, but, okay. Yeah.
So I suspect you have the same problem I have, because I physically make things and make my
Sure.
own clothes.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
I bet you end up with a lot of furniture in your house that you like, prototypes.
Yes.
What do you do with them?
Well,
How do
I mean,
you keep its value without like giving it away to your friends?
I don't. I don't know. I don't know. My apartment is full of all my stuff. And a lot of it is prototypes, and a lot of it, like, this drawer doesn't shut quite right, that kind of thing. And then, basically my parents' basement is full of old projects and what I couldn't give away to friends and family. So now everything I make, like, I haven't made anything new in like a year, right? Because I've just been, like, once you make something that you like, then you have to work out the manufacturing process and then all these other things and marketing it and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah. I would love to have more time to make things to keep, but I don't. So, yeah.
You say you don't have a showroom. How do you move your product? Like, do you have distributors, wholesalers, retailers?
Yeah, so when we go to shows, we have online retailers, which we probably have about, 20 of them, 30, I don't know. And then we have some small retailers. We don't have any big guys yet. The conversations are still kind of rolling. And then, interior designers are really good, and interior design firms and architects are also very good. So, yeah.
You mentioned that, the money will start rolling in.
Sure.
Well, as a minimalist, what if it doesn't? What are you going to take out of this?
Oh, well, it's still fun. I mean, at the end of the day, right, I'm doing something that I like, and it is rolling, and when you go and you make friends at these shows, and that's nice, that's very good, you get to know all these people in the industry, and, even if it didn't work out, like say in 5 years, I just have to make the decision that it's not paying the bills. I feel like with all the people that I've met so far, and I could probably get like a furniture design job pretty much at, like right off the rip. So I'm not too worried about that.
Have you had things made for you by other people? And if that goes to be the case, if you send it off to China or to Amish or to wherever it goes,
Sure.
How do you think your relationship with your design or your products, your criteria for excellence or however that is, how do you
Right.
think that your relationship, having other people make it for you, will change with your product?
Do you mean like reduction in quality? Is that what
Not, well, not
like,
reduction
or
in
just like my
quality, or
passion for the product?
If it's 100%, will you accept 98% in terms of
Oh.
excellence? Or if when you're designing, do you think that you will design for scaling up for knowing the manufacturing process? It seems like you kind of.
I already kind of do the scaling up. So, like with these tables, they can, the tops come off, right? And then the bases, even though they're not flat pack, they do stack together. So I kind of planned a little bit for that. Everybody who, not everybody, I shouldn't say that. Most people who are large import anyway, right? And their stuff isn't flat pack. So that's not a huge issue, right? In terms of like my attachment to the product itself, after the first couple, I kind of lost attachment anyway, right? So now it's just kind of like grinding it out. This is the 100th table that I've made. Like, I'm so sick of making this table, you know, that kind of thing. So, and then like accepting 98 over 100%, like nothing is ever perfect, you know, and it probably never will be. So there's always that element of, you know, it has to be good for the price point, right? So if I wanted to knock it down $100 and make it cheaper, I could do that, right? And reduce the quality. But you know, for what I'm going for, it has to be pretty pristine, you know, so.
Because we're talking about minimalist being the thing, and your design is very minimal, but yet you came originally out of like a legal background and thinking you wanted to go the legal route.
Sure.
How deep into, because it's kind of contrary to one another. You know,
Yeah.
legal is heavy and weighted down and
Yeah.
cumbersome, and minimalist is minimalist
Sure.
and sleek. Are you deep into making sure that all your legal, like your copywriting, your patenting, your ideas, your designs, are you doing that, or are you kind of like whatever?
No,
If it
yeah,
happens, it happens, or?
there's really no way to do that. Because, you know, you can just change the smallest design element, right? And then it's copied. And that's what everyone talks about, is that it's not important to do that. Because if they want to rip it off, they'll rip it off. And like, for instance, I have these friends, they have a company called Ion Design. And they're much larger than me. They're on like a whole different scale. But they were walking around and they went to another showroom of a guy that they're friends with who also makes kind of mid-century stuff. And this is their friend, supposedly, right? And they went in and they were like, that's our stool that you have there. And he was like, They're like, sorry. Yeah, and they're like, well, that's just the way it goes, right? You know, and you just kind of always have to make something new.
So you just kind of let it go, you don't go.
Yeah, you can't do it, right? And
Because it'd be crazy to keep following people and make sure they're not.
right, a patent is only worth what you can have the money to protect it, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's not happening. So,
I'm just curious.
yeah.
That's all for that one, and that, you know, with that being said, you know, this could show up at IKEA, you know, next month.
It could.
And you said you haven't designed anything new in a year.
I haven't made anything new in a year. I have like a whole list of things that I would love to make. You know, and that's just, you know, that's a growing pain that will be worked out, right? And so once I settle on getting an employee, maybe someone I can foster into like a shop manager is probably the next way to go, instead of like strictly like a sanding grunt, you know, that kind of a thing. So, yes, who's cheap? Yes. Mhm.
What is your take on the creative culture in Cincinnati, and how have you seen it grow, and kind of where do you see it going?
You know, I'm not the person to give an opinion on that because I'm not around. Like, you know, I mean, I'm out in the burbs, right, but doing this stuff in my like little hovel, right, with my table saw. So, I mean, I only know one person here. That's another furniture guy. So, yeah.
Is there a reason
Yeah.
you chose to stay in Cincinnati then?
Oh, well, it's my home. It's where the factory is. Cincinnati itself, for like the size of the city, is very, very, very cheap in terms of cost of living and labor, that kind of thing. So, but it's good. It's growing. I mean, look at all the people who showed up to this to listen to me, right? So.
I'm imagining the mid-century modern furniture scene is about as saturated as it can possibly be.
It is, yeah.
And so, but yet you're getting picked by some pretty large manufacturers.
Sure.
Is you know, do they ever tell you, or have you figured out what it is about your line that is somehow selling it to them? Like, why are they picking yours?
Well, there's a difference, I guess, between, you know, you say the market is saturated, right? Well, if you go to like a big show, right, with thousands of exhibitors there, right, with big permanent showrooms and everything, it's not. Like, there just aren't that many people actually doing it. You go to ICFF and that is like by far the smallest show, and there are a lot of people doing it, but that is like a minute amount. I mean, you can still go and find someone making like clawfoot antiques and things like this, you know. So it's really not that saturated. And also, it is mid-century, but it's not quite there. You know, it's colorful, it has the design elements, but it was kind of a contemporary take on that. But it's by no means saturated. I mean, those guys at Ion that I'm talking about, that's what they do. Their stuff, you would walk by and say, oh, that's a sideboard I've seen 100 times. Like, what's so special about that? But they just like signed a deal for like Hyatt hotels, right? So, yeah. Which I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. So, yeah.
Of the four, like, so you mentioned 4 shows you're planning on going to or have been to.
Sure.
And you're probably one of like 3 companies that will have shown all 4 of those.
Yes.
Do you find like that? I mean, you haven't gotten to High Point yet, but do you find like one of those is like really your market, or are you hitting like, was ICFF a totally different crowd that like had its benefits, or will you like not show there next year and instead show these bigger shows?
Oh, ICFF was like the winner.
Okay.
That was the one. You know, it's hard to gauge because it's not a show where you leave with dollars,
Yeah.
right? And like orders to process and that kind of thing. It's like a long-term deal. Vegas was okay. It was good. And Atlanta was terrible. And then High Point, from what we hear, is very good. But we're also not talking to people who are making things that we're making. So, you know, basically, I still got my feelers out. And we're like the youngest company. And so everyone else has done this too. And that's why they only do specific shows and not waste their money. But, you know, next year we'll have a much better idea. And, you know, hopefully we'll narrow it down to like 2 or 3.
So, you've made it pretty clear that you've got a list of new designs and the new things that you want to make.
Sure.
You may not have the luxury of doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find yourself getting pressure from your outlets, your vendors, to come up with new lines, new items, or are they pretty satisfied with what you have right now? If they are, when did you decide, or how did you decide it's time to bring out a new piece?
Well, they're not asking for anything new yet, right? We're still new ourselves. And a lot of these companies that we're signed up with, we weren't with last year. Last year we were on kind of like maker sites, things that focused on like me, right? This year we're on the big boy sites like All Modern and Design Public and those kinds of things. And so, you know, maybe in a year or so they'll start, you know, poking us for new stuff, but you know, right now, not so much. I will say that most people come up with new lines, like every year they have a new line, and because we still don't know what shows we're going to be at, I'm trying to say have a new product for each show, as opposed to a new line. That way there's always, a lot of the same people go to the shows, and so I'm just trying to like gradually add things to bring them back to the booth. So the stools that we make, the last time we were in Vegas, we only had a counter height stool. And then someone asked us to make bar height, and then someone asked us to make, you know, table height. So we kind of like are letting our customers build our line. And so now we'll have those to bring, and that's, while it is the same thing, it's at least something new for them to come back and see us. So.
How did you come up with the name?
Oh, so the 3 guys that started it, really, or at least had the idea, one of them's name was Mike Torono, and it was kind of his idea at first, and so they were going to do a kids line, and they just kind of combined those 2 and came up with Tronk. And then by the time I came into it, all the graphics were done and everything, and it's like, all right, I'll keep it. Yeah, it's not like crazy important what your name is, you know. So, yeah.
Was there something that you made early on when you were tinkering and maybe it was like aha moment? You had these skills and you had this idea that you could actually do something?
Not really. You know, it was kind of a gradual build-up. You know, I would just try and play with different materials and finishes and joints and that kind of stuff. And then, to be honest, I felt like I was backed into a corner at work where I had been in like a manufacturing environment for so long that if I didn't do something, I was going to end up in a factory for the rest of my life, and that would be terrible. So it's just like, got to get on the ball and do it. So yeah.
How do you see the digital media affecting your business? I mean,
As far as like online retailers or social media?
online, yeah, either.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, we.
Various apps like House or Pinterest, obviously.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we just signed on the House this week, so I don't have an opinion on that one. You know, I'm terrible with asking customers where they heard about us, so I couldn't really give an answer on that. I know we do all the social media stuff. I don't really do it. Fernanda does that. So, you know, I was joking with John that like I have a LinkedIn page, but I don't really know what's on it, and I don't. We have Facebook pages and Twitter pages and all that kind of stuff, but that's not really. I'm too busy doing other things. I don't know. We have gotten business, I know, where they've specifically said Pinterest, so it does do something, and anything to get your name out, right? The more that people see you anywhere, is good, right? So, yeah.
So you don't really sell in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I'm in like an extremely similar boat, you know, and like run a furniture company. I just don't sell anything locally.
Sure.
Financially, that doesn't really affect me, but does it like bum you out that like you get an order and you're like, oh, it's like some other Midwestern city, so I don't only sell on the coast.
Sure.
But why is it that nobody I know has ever bought anything from me?
Well, because they can all get it for cheap. Just come to me. No, right? I don't know. You know, there's really only. So there's like Voltage, which is even too expensive for what I'm doing, and that's like European mostly. And then there's High Street, and I mean, last year we called them, but our products were different, and they just weren't interested, to be honest. But then that's pretty much it for retailers. And then, you know, as far as why I say someone from Cincinnati hasn't bought something online, right? Like they see it and just whatever, right? Buy it. I don't know. It doesn't really affect me very much. Yeah, you know, because I like the next closest place I've sold anything to would be like Indianapolis, right? But then, really, like 90% of it has gone to the east and west coast, and really New York is probably like 50% of where everything has gone. So, yeah, it doesn't bother me.
This is strictly opinion, but I think that, at least for me, part of that is when you see something that might be like made in Cincinnati or made locally, like your thought would be, oh, well, I wouldn't have to order that. Like I could go to a showroom and look at it and check it out. That could just be like some of my age or something. But I mean, I think that like you very much have a market here. It's just
Well, if anyone is from High Street, then please. You know? Yeah. No, but I'm not in a position to have a showroom, you know, and particularly like I could fit pretty much everything I make on the stage, so it would be, you know, not useful. But yeah, no, I would love to have, I mean, anything, right, anywhere. So I would love to have something here. You know, we'll see. Yeah. Anyone else? We good? Come to the end? Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.